Well, good evening, this is Heloc Steve coming to you on the 7th of January. And a big welcome goes out to all my subscribers and viewers who are joining me this evening as we talk about the financial system and some potential dangers that are looming for 2019. And I'd also like to put that into a little bit of context because we are seeing a mixed set of issues between a housing bubble, which looks like it's about to burst, and inflation issues, which is driving up the cost of living, and all kinds of different loan practices that have really been robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I think it's important to understand these mechanisms and what is going on and just how close to the edge we really are, so that we can maybe pull back and try and do something about it. This evening I would like to talk about the mortgage situation basically worldwide, but we're going to look mostly at Canada and the United States of America. However, basically the same pattern has been copied right the way around the world, certainly the Western world anyways, where people have been using their homes as some kind of an ATM. Whether it's been through a Heloc loan, this is a home equity line of credit loan, or sometimes they're called reverse mortgages. And as you'll see as we go through some of these charts that I've dug up, that basically people have been using the money, the equity in their homes to either make repayments on the mortgage that they couldn't afford, or to buy toys or pay for repairs that they couldn't afford. But one way or another, they've stolen that money out of their mortgage and increased their mortgage level, or used up the equity level in their homes. Now, the rules and regulations of Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation have changed. At one time, you could borrow 80% of the equity of your home, and because they're concerned about abuses taking place, they've now reduced that to 65% of your home. Okay, and also some of these lines of credits are getting ready to reset, a 10-year reset, and we'll take a look at that, along with the fact that interest rates are now starting to creep up there, and the housing market has stalled and housing prices have fallen off. And this is probably the perfect storm for anyone who has overspent and is now facing inflation eating up their food budget and their heating budget, and the inability now to not only take out money from the equity of the home, but to actually have to start repaying that back. Of course, a lot of these situations were taken on by young couples desperate to have a home, and of course, what's the first thing a young couple wants to do? Well, they want to start a family. Well, what happens when you start a family? The wife or the husband has to take time off work after the birth of the baby on mat leave to take care of that, and so the income starts to drop one way or another. Or if you both decide to work, then your baby will have to go into some kind of daycare situation if they will take a baby under a year old, which is actually pretty rare. So one way or another, you are either looking at a decrease in income or an increase in expenses. Okay, so let's go take a look at these charts, and you'll see pretty quickly exactly what I mean and how precipitous this whole situation is, and it really will not take much to tip the scales. Okay, so let's go take a look at those, and we'll come back and I'll have a quick wrap up. Okay, here we go. Worse is yet to come, says Housing Bear, who nailed 2008 crash, 2018 slowdown. Montana money manager James Stack, who predicted both the 2008 real estate crash and last year's housing slowdown, now says that 2019 may not be so great for housing bulls, according to Bloomberg. Housing could be heading for its worst year since the last housing crash, said the 67-year-old Stack, who manages $1.3 billion for high net worth clients. Expect home sales to continue on a downward trend in the next 12 plus months, and there's a significant downside risk to housing prices if a recession takes hold. Okay, so here is one of those big signs. Meanwhile, as we reported last week, the Institute for Supply Management, a gauge of US manufacturing, plunged from 59.3 to 54.1, the lowest point in the manufacturing series since November 2016, and the biggest one-month drop since October 2008. 8. Bank of Canada raises interest rate to 1.5%. This is October 2018. And you can see the key overnight rate in 07 was 4%, and we dropped to almost zero. We've been bumping along the bottom. There's a little up and a little down, and here we are now starting to climb towards 2. Okay, the reality is that economy is at its capacity and is no longer needing stimulus, Central Bank Governor Stephen Poloz said at a news conference following the announcement. And so it's our job to prevent the thing from overheating and creating inflation pressures down the road. Candice Bangsund, portfolio manager at investment firm Fiera Capital, interprets the bank's statements as a clear sign it has strong confidence in the outlook for the economy, which means rate hikes to come. This is how Canada's housing correction begins. Canadians are finally getting a taste of what a world with rising interest Canadians are finally getting a taste of what a world with Canadians are finally getting a taste of what a world with rising interest rates will look like. And one thing is painfully clear, we're not ready for what happens next. Kirk Marsh first noticed the mood to start to turn in Vancouver's housing market a year ago as the real estate investor who buys homes and condos and fixings. Kirk Marsh first noticed the mood start to turn in Vancouver's housing market a year ago. As a real estate investor who buys homes and condos, then fixes them up for resale, Marsh has an excellent vantage point on the market. Since giving up his old job in tech 3 years ago to flip real estate, sitting at a desk was killing me, he says. Marsh has bought and sold 6 detached homes and condominiums across the BC Lower Mainland. It's not like the TV shows where you see them making $100,000 or more each time. It's just not like that, he says. But he's done well and always able to find buyers and come out ahead. Or that's how it used to be. Today, everything has stalled. Marsh is torn when it comes to the health of the markets. On one hand, the strong local job market and inflow of new residents to the region lead him to believe the fundamentals remain strong for Vancouver real estate. But he also knows that Ottawa's tighter mortgage rules, combined with relentlessly rising interest rates, means it's getting harder for people to obtain the large mortgages necessary to get into the market. I don't know where the buyers are going to come from, he admits, and that worries me. He's far from alone. The willingness of consumers to borrow and spend on houses, cars, furniture, restaurants, you name it, has been Canada's primary economic engine for more than a decade. After Canada emerged from the Great Recession relatively unscathed, we were the envy of the world. Thank households for that. When turmoil and uncertainty held back business investment and crushed exports, Canada's economy continued to grow whilst unemployment fell. Thank households for that too. So Canada's economy has never been more dependent on household spending. And this is the growth in total mortgage interest payments for Canadian households, and you can see how they are increasing, around to the 2006-2008 levels. Now consider those households that also have auto loans, credit card debt and home equity lines of credit. Their monthly debt obligations, defined as the minimum payment needed to avoid becoming delinquent, climbed by an average of $211 in Toronto and $214 in Vancouver. On an annual basis, that's an additional $2,500 going towards debt repayment. Government of Canada, home equity lines of credit, market trends and consumer issues. And you can see the green is the debt to disposable income, and the black line is the Heloc in billions of dollars. Okay, so that's home equity lines of credit. And as you can see, people have been using these Heloc loans, the equity, to cover the debt to disposable income. And it's now at a staggering 170%, the rate of debt to disposable income. Here we go, consumer issues, over borrowing. Helocs offer relatively low interest rates and convenient access to large amounts of revolving credit, which may encourage some consumers to use their home equity to fund a lifestyle they cannot afford. Oh, you wouldn't do that, would you? The automatic increases to available credit, interest-only payments, and the non-amortized structure of the Heloc products may tempt less disciplined consumers to use their home as collateral against borrowing for everyday spending. It's the everyday spending. So you can see that when this is cut off, it's going to be a big issue. While the overwhelming majority of consumers keep their Helocs in good standing, many are doing so by making the minimum payment, i.e. interest-only payments, or making only occasional efforts to reduce the principal. Research indicates that roughly 4 in 10 consumers do not make regular payments against their outstanding Heloc principal, and 1 in 4 only cover the interest or make the minimum payment. Heloc borrowers can find themselves in a home equity extraction debt spiral, particularly during periods of financial distress. Some lenders market Helocs as a source of emergency funds that can be used to cover unanticipated expenses or a loss of income. When consumers borrow against their home equity to make ends meet, they run the risk of having to extract more equity down the road just to cover the minimum payments on their Helocs. This pattern of behavior may lead consumers to add to their debt burden during periods of financial distress rather than reining in discretionary spending. Analysis: Canadian house prices slump makes buyers wary for 2019. And here's a couple of sites. I will link these below. This is a government site, Office of Consumer Affairs, 6 steps to get out of debt, and also getting help from a credit counsellor. Okay, so I'll leave these links below, and I would highly suggest that this is your first step, and do not be tempted to go to a payday loan place, because you'll be done. Okay, go to this first, get some advice, and use that as a starting point, and share all of this with your partner. You are going to have to resolve this together, and that's probably the only way that you're going to stay together, is if you treat each other openly and honestly and share all your information. So as you can see, this is going to act as a shock to the system, and something that I have been very, very concerned about for a long time now, and I think that this is going to come into play, is the fact that most people today have direct deposit from their work, and they have direct debit for the outgoings, for their mortgage, for their insurance, hydro bills, gas bills, so on and so forth. And when you have direct debit bills coming out of your bank, they will have priority, because they are electronically sent through your account. So you may find a time when your paycheck hits your bank account and barely skims the surface before all of those direct debits snatch that up and take it for themselves and leave you with absolutely zero income to pay for your incidentals like food, bus passes, gasoline, maintenance repair on your vehicle, maintenance on your home. Maybe you have to have the roof fixed. There's all kinds of problems, and of course your spending in the general economy will fall off a cliff, and so the economy then starts taking a hit. And then that hit on the economy starts closing down businesses, which leads to layoffs, which leads to further problems. And you can see how quickly what seemed to be a very small correction in the market, i.e. a dropping of prices and a minor increase in interest rates, can spiral out of control into a vortex of debt and NSFs on your checks and goodness knows what else. And so this is something you need to pay attention to, and I'm urging you, if you can, try and get some kind of control over your pay again. If you can, try and get your pay to give you a paycheck. At least you have a check in your hand and you can change institutions if you have to. If you do find yourself in financial trouble, at least make an effort to pay. If you can keep some of your money or all of your money out of the hands of the debt collectors, you can write them a letter or call them. I would personally send them a registered letter. I've been in this situation myself when we first moved to Bobcaygeon here, and January, February, there just was not enough income to cover all the bills. So I just wrote the credit cards a letter, a registered letter, and said from this point on I'll be paying $10 a month, which is all I can afford, that I'm not welching on my debt, I'm not refusing to pay. However, my circumstances meant that I would have to reduce payment until further notice. And of course, once we got into summertime, business picked up a little bit and that wasn't an issue. But if you make some kind of effort, it is very, very difficult for that company to get a court order against you to start seizing things or what have you. Okay, same with your property taxes, your mortgage, anything. Even if it's $1 a month, make some kind of effort. So I'm going to leave some links below of government agencies that can help you find a counsellor, can help you find strategies to get out of debt, that kind of stuff, to consolidate your debts. You really need to go and get some help before it gets out of hand. At least get some kind of counselling. Counsellor will at least be able to give you some kind of option list that you can choose from, and maybe the best path to resolve your situation. But anyways, look out folks, because it is coming. Okay, we have the perfect storm. I don't think there is any escape from this. Interest rates have to go up. They've been historically low for so long. And you saw Stephen Powell from the Bank of Canada saying that they now have to control the what they call the fire in the economy, so it doesn't get too out of hand, and they do that with interest rates. So please let the buyer beware. Try not to take on too much debt at this time, and that which you do, try and make sure that it is an investment. There is an old saying, and it goes like this: rich men buy assets and poor men buy liabilities. Okay, and so those are cautionary words. Think about that. Try and make every purchase you buy, especially if you have to do it in debt, make sure it's an asset. And I can assure you, a boat, a Sea-Doo, a drone are not assets. They're toys. They're expensive, and they cost a lot to maintain. And another little saying that I got from a friend of mine who is actually a forensic accountant, and he was a customer of mine for a long, long time. He's moved back to Aurelia now, but he said, Steve, there's only one thing worse than a bad deal. I said, what's that? He said, a bad deal on borrowed money. And on that note, I'm going to say cheerio, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe below. Click that big red button, it really helps when you do. And thank you again to all my subscribers and viewers who come to join me this evening as we go down this journey to see where it may lead. But please prepare yourself accordingly. So this is Heloc Steve signing off, and we will talk to you very soon. You take care now. See ya. Bye.